The Great Hall of Nexus Prime buzzed with angry voices. Representatives from dozens of star nations sat in floating chairs that moved around the massive chamber. Some aliens looked like giant insects. Others had too many arms or eyes that glowed in the dark. Captain Lee Deho sat quietly in the human section, watching everything with careful eyes. War Prince Zephyros stood tall in the center of the hall. His species looked like lions that walked on two legs with golden fur and sharp teeth. He wore armor that sparkled with metals from 100 battles. When he spoke, his voice carried the sound of someone who had never lost a fight. The galaxy grows weak, Zephyros roared. Too many useless species take up space and resources. It is time for the strong to clean house. The Stellar Dominion has made a list of races that serve no purpose. These weak civilizations must be removed. Murmurs spread through the hall. Some aliens nodded in agreement. Others looked worried. Captain Lee Deho felt his stomach tighten. He knew humans were probably on that list. Zephyros continued his speech. At the top of our list are the humans. They arrived here only 50 years ago. They have small ships, weak weapons, and no real military power. They waste time talking about peace when they should be fighting for their place in the galaxy. The Stellar Dominion will give these humans one choice: bow down to us or be destroyed. Many aliens in the hall started cheering. They believed Zephyros was right. Humans did seem weak compared to other species. Their ships were smaller. Their weapons looked simple. Most other races had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Humans were just babies learning to walk. Captain Lee Deho wanted to stand up and argue, but he knew it would do no good. The Stellar Dominion had 17 different species working together. They had thousands of warships. Earth only had a few hundred ships spread across many star systems. The numbers did not look good. Then something unexpected happened. A very old voice spoke from the back of the hall. Foolish children. Everyone turned to look. Elder Kethmaran slowly floated forward in his chair. The ancient alien looked like a tree that had learned to walk. His bark-like skin was covered in scars from countless years. His eyes were deeper than space itself. Most aliens in the hall had never seen anyone so old. Elder Kethmaran, Zephyros said with fake respect. We honor your age, but perhaps you should rest instead of— Silence, the elder said quietly, but his voice filled the entire hall. You speak of things you do not understand. I have lived for 3,000 of your years, young prince. I have watched empires rise and fall. I have seen species that could crack planets like eggs. I have witnessed races that commanded black holes as weapons. All of them believed they were the strongest. All of them are now dust. The hall became completely quiet. Elder Kethmaran had seen the galaxy change many times. When he spoke, even the proudest warriors listened. The old alien turned his ancient eyes toward the human section. Captain Lee Deho felt like those eyes could see right through him. Then Elder Kethmaran looked back at Zephyros. But these humans, the elder continued slowly, they are different from any species I have ever encountered. You see their small fleet and think they are weak. You see their peaceful words and believe they are afraid. You count their ships and laugh at the numbers. But you do not see what I see. And what do you see, old one? Zephyros asked. His voice carried less confidence now. Elder Kethmaran was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his words made the temperature in the hall seem to drop. I see a species that reached the stars not by conquering others, but by conquering themselves. I see beings who turned their own planet from a dying world into a garden. I see minds that work together in ways we have forgotten how to do. Most importantly, I see restraint. Restraint? Zephyros laughed, but the sound was forced. You call weakness a virtue? I call it wisdom, Elder Kethmaran replied. Do you know why humans speak of peace, young prince? It is not because they cannot wage war. it is because they choose not to. There is a difference between those two things, a very important difference. Admiral Park Ji-soo, the human fleet commander, sat next to Captain Lee Dae-ho. She had not said a word during the entire meeting. Her face showed no emotion as she listened to the debate about her people's fate. Dr. Kim Solman, the human scientist and diplomat, took notes on a small device. She seemed more interested in studying the other species than in defending humanity. This calm reaction confused many aliens who expected humans to beg for mercy. Zephyros grew angry at the elder's words. "You speak in riddles, old one. Humans are weak because they avoid fighting. Their technology is simple. Their ships are few. These are facts, not mysteries." Elder Kethmaran sighed deeply. "Young species always make the same mistake. You think strength means having the biggest weapons. You believe power comes from making others afraid. But true strength is much harder to see." The elder paused and looked around the hall at all the different aliens. "I have a warning for the Stellar Dominion," he said. "I have seen what happens when the truly powerful are pushed too far. I have watched peaceful species become forces of nature when they are threatened. Do not make this mistake. Do not challenge the humans. You will not like what you find." Zephyros slammed his fist on his speaking platform. "Enough of this nonsense. The Stellar Dominion fears no one, especially not some newcomers with toy ships. We give humanity one galactic standard month. Submit to our rule or face complete destruction. This is our final offer." Many aliens in the hall cheered again. They trusted Zephyros more than the old elder. After all, the War Prince had conquered dozens of worlds. Elder Kethmaran had only sat and watched. Captain Lee Dae-ho finally stood up. His voice was calm and steady when he spoke. The Stellar Dominion has made its position clear. Humanity thanks this council for the time to consider our response. We will send our answer in 1 month. As the meeting ended, aliens began leaving the hall in groups. They talked excitedly about the coming war. Many placed bets on how quickly humans would surrender. Elder Kethmaran floated over to the human section. He looked at Captain Lee Dae-ho, Admiral Park Ji-soo, and Dr. Kim Soman with those ancient eyes. "I tried to warn them," he said quietly. "They do not listen to old voices anymore." Captain Lee Dae-ho nodded respectfully. "We appreciate your words, Elder, but perhaps it is time for some lessons to be taught." As the humans left the hall, Elder Kethmaran watched them go. He had seen many species face extinction, but something told him that in 1 month it would not be humanity who disappeared from the galaxy. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting to see what would happen when ancient wisdom met youthful arrogance. The galaxy was about to learn that some warnings should never be ignored. War Prince Zephyros stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching thousands of ships gather in empty space. The sight filled him with pride. Ships from 17 different species had answered his call. Some looked like metal sharks. Others were shaped like giant crystals that caught starlight. All of them carried enough weapons to destroy entire planets. "How many ships do we have now?" Zephyros asked his second-in-command. 10,000 and growing, my lord," Fleetmaster Veldan replied. "More arrive every hour. The humans will see this fleet and wet themselves with fear." Zephyros laughed loudly. The sound echoed through the bridge where dozens of different alien species worked together. They all shared the same belief. That might made right in the galaxy. On screens across known space, news channels showed the growing fleet. Reporters from hundreds of worlds talked excitedly about the coming war. Most aliens had never seen such. A large military force gathered in one place. "This is history in the making," one reporter said to her audience. "The Stellar Dominion has assembled the largest war fleet ever seen. Early reports suggest the humans are already running scared." The reporter was right about one thing. Human ships were moving. Commander Cho Hyunwoo watched his scanners as he flew his small scout ship near the edge of Dominion space. What he saw made his blood run cold. "Base, this is Scout 7. He spoke into his radio. I count over 8,000 ships and more. Coming, they have enough firepower to turn Earth into space dust. Copy that, Scout 7, came the reply from General Kim Won-ho back on Earth. Return to base immediately. Commander Cho Hyun-woo turned his ship around and jumped to faster-than-light speed. Behind him, the Dominion fleet continued to grow like a cancer in space. Back on Earth, General Kim Won-ho read the report with a calm face. His staff officers looked worried, but the general seemed almost relaxed. "Sir," one officer said, "the numbers are getting worse. Our latest count puts them at 30-1 odds against us. Maybe we should consider surrender." General Kim Won-ho looked up from the report. 30-1, you said? Yes, sir. And those are just the ships we can see. The general smiled in a way that confused his staff. Good. That means they're all in one place. The officer blinked in surprise. Sir? Nothing, Lieutenant. Send word to Dr. Song Na-young. Tell her the delivery deadline just moved up. Across the galaxy, news networks showed human civilian ships leaving their colonies. Families packed their belongings and headed toward Earth. To most aliens watching, this looked like a complete retreat. "Look at them run," Zephyros said to his officers as they watched the news. "The mighty humans cannot even protect their own people. This will be easier than I thought." What the aliens did not see were the other ships moving in the opposite direction. Military transports carried equipment and personnel to secret locations. Dr. Song Na-young supervised teams of scientists as they set up strange machines on asteroids throughout the solar system. "How much longer do we need?" Dr. Song Na-young asked her team leader. 2 more weeks to finish the calibrations, Dr. Lee Kyung-ho replied. "The quantum field generators are delicate. One mistake and we could destabilize the entire system." Then, "We better not make any mistakes," Dr. Song Na-young said. Meanwhile, War Prince Zephyros gave interviews to news networks across the galaxy. He sat in his command chair wearing his finest armor, speaking to reporters like he was already the winner. "The humans thought they could join our galaxy and act like equals," he said to a lizard-like reporter. "They were wrong. After we conquer them, other species will remember what happens when you forget your place." "What do you think about Elder Kethmaran's warning?" the reporter asked. Zephyros waved his hand dismissively. "That old tree should stick to gardening. He has been alive too long and sees ghosts where none exist. Humans are primitives with barely 50 years in space. We have been conquering worlds for thousands of years." The interview was broadcast to billions of beings across the galaxy. Most of them agreed with Zephyros. After all, the evidence seemed clear. Humans had small ships, simple weapons, and were already running away from a fight. But Elder Kethmaran watched the interview from his home world with growing worry. He had lived long enough to recognize the signs. The humans were not running in panic. They were moving with purpose. The Elder tried one more time to warn the galaxy. He sent a message to every major news network. "People of the galaxy," his ancient voice said, "you are about to witness something that will change everything. The humans have not shown their true nature because they hoped wisdom would prevail. You mistake their restraint for weakness. You see their mercy as fear. This is a grave error." The message continued. "I have watched species that could shatter moons fall to entropy. I have seen races that commanded stars themselves fade into history. But what approaches is different. The humans do not seek to conquer others. They seek to conquer the impossible itself. Do not mistake their choice for peace as inability for war." Most aliens laughed at the Elder's message. Social media filled with jokes about the senile old tree who was afraid of humans. Comedians made fun of his warnings. Even serious news shows treated his words as the ramblings of someone too old to understand modern reality. Commander Cho Hyun-woo made several more scouting runs to count the Dominion fleet. Each time he returned, the numbers grew larger. 10,000 ships became 12,000, then 15,000. "They're bringing everything they have," he reported to General Kim Won-ho. Every major warship, every battle cruiser, every fighter squadron. It's like they want to make sure nothing is left of us. Perfect, the general replied. Dr. Song Na-yung, how are our preparations? Dr. Song Na-yung looked up from her calculations. Her team had been working around the clock for weeks. We're almost ready. The quantum field manipulators are in position. The stellar output controls are calibrated. We just need to run final tests. What exactly are we testing? Commander Cho Hyun-woo asked. He had clearance to know about the secret project, but the science was beyond him. Dr. Song Na-yung smiled tiredly. We're testing whether humans can turn a star into a precision instrument. The commander stared at her. You're going to do what with the sun? Not just the sun, Dr. Song Na-yung explained. The entire solar system is now a weapon. But unlike anything the galaxy has seen before, we're not going to destroy the Dominion fleet. We're going to disable it completely without killing a single being. As the deadline approached, the Dominion fleet reached its final size. 20,000 ships from 17 species, all armed with the most advanced weapons their civilizations could build. War Prince Zephyros had created the most powerful military force in galactic history. Send the humans our final demand, Zephyros ordered. They have 1 day left to surrender. The message was broadcast across all human colonies and to Earth itself. It was simple and threatening. Submit now, or be destroyed. Admiral Park Ji-soo received the message while standing in the AO command center on Earth. Around her, hundreds of technicians monitored screens showing the positions of both fleets. The Dominion ships were moving toward the solar system. Human ships were positioned in what looked like random formations around the outer planets. Admiral, a young officer asked, should we send a reply to their demand? Admiral Park Ji-soo looked at the tactical display. Everything was in position. Dr. Song Na-yung had confirmed that all systems were ready. The moment they had prepared for was finally here. Send them this message, she said calmly. Tell War Prince Zephyros that humanity's answer will be delivered in person. Across the galaxy, beings watched and waited. Most expected to see human surrender within hours. Some hoped to witness the complete destruction of an entire species. Few understood that they were about to see something that would change their understanding of what was possible. The stars themselves seemed to gather, their light, waiting for the moment when everything would change. The stellar Dominion fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. 20,000 ships spread across space like a metal cloud of death. War Prince Zephyros stood on his command bridge expecting to see massive human defenses waiting for him. Instead, he saw almost nothing. Where are they? Zephyros demanded, staring at the tactical display. Where are the human ships? Fleet Master Vestan checked his scanners 3 times before answering. My lord, we detect only 300 ships scattered around the outer planets. They appear to be in random positions with no defensive formation. Zephyros felt a chill run down his spine. This was not what he expected. Where were the desperate defenses? Where were the massive battle stations? Where were the thousands of ships that should be protecting humanity's home system? It's a trap, he muttered. Sir, Vestan asked. It has to be a trap. No species would defend their home world with only 300 ships against 20,000. They must have hidden fleets somewhere. The Dominion ships spent hours scanning every asteroid, every moon, every piece of space debris. They found nothing. No hidden ships, no cloaked battle stations, no secret weapons platforms. Just a few hundred human vessels scattered in what looked like completely random positions. On Earth, Admiral Park Ji-soo watched the enemy fleet through long-range sensors. She stood in the command center surrounded by screens showing both fleets' positions. Dr. Song Na-yung worked at a nearby station, making final adjustments to systems most people could not even pronounce. Admiral, Captain Ryu Tae-hyun's voice came through the radio from his ship near Jupiter. The enemy fleet is holding position at the system's edge. I think they're suspicious about our ship placement. They should be, Admiral Park Jisoo replied. Dr. Song Na-young, are all systems ready? Dr. Song Na-young looked up from her calculations. Dark circles under her eyes showed she had not slept in days. All quantum field manipulators are online. Stellar output controls are responding perfectly. The sun is now under our direct command. Captain Ryu Tae-hyun felt his mouth go dry. Even knowing about the project, hearing those words spoken out loud was terrifying. Humans had found a way to control their own star like a weapon. Not just any weapon, but a precision tool that could reach across the entire solar system. Beginning. Final approach, War Prince Zephyros announced to his fleet. All ships maintain battle formation. Watch for hidden defenses. The massive Dominion fleet began moving forward. Ships spread across millions of kilometers advanced slowly toward the inner planets. Every sensor was active, every weapon was charged, every crew member was ready for battle. But the human ships did not move to intercept them. Instead, they held their positions around the gas giant planets like they were waiting for something. Elder. Kethmaran watched the battle from his home world through long-range telescopes. The ancient being had seen many wars, but this felt different. The humans were too calm, too confident for a species about to be destroyed. "What are you planning?" he whispered to himself. Back in the solar system, the Dominion fleet crossed the orbit of Neptune, still no human resistance. They passed Uranus with no opposition. By the time they reached Saturn's orbit, War Prince Zephyros was certain this was some kind of trick. "All stop," he ordered. "Something is wrong here." "My lord," Veldan said, "perhaps they simply know they cannot win. Maybe this is surrender." But Zephyros was not convinced. Elder Kethmaran's warnings echoed in his mind. The old alien had seemed genuinely afraid of what humans might do, but looking at the tactical display, Zephyros saw only a few hundred small ships facing his massive fleet. That was when Admiral Park Jisoo decided it was time. "All ships, this is Admiral Park Jisoo. Project Prometheus is now authorized. Light the fire." The message was sent to every human ship in the solar system. Captain Ryu Tae-hyun received it aboard his vessel near Jupiter. His hands shook slightly as he activated the quantum field manipulator his ship carried. "Prometheus ignition in 10 seconds, he announced to his crew. "May God help us all." Across the solar system, 300 human ships began working together, in perfect coordination. Each vessel carried a quantum field manipulator designed by Dr. Song Na-young and her team. When activated together, these devices could influence the sun's magnetic field from over 5 billion kilometers away. The sun began to change. At first, nobody noticed. Solar flares happened naturally all the time, but these flares were different. They formed in exact patterns, following precise mathematical curves that nature could never create alone. Dr. Song Na-young watched her instruments with total concentration. Stellar output responding to quantum field manipulation. Solar flare formation is within acceptable parameters. Beginning targeting sequence. War Prince Zephyros was staring at his tactical display when the first beam struck his fleet. It was not like any weapon he had ever seen. The solar flare reached across space in a perfect line of plasma and energy. It hit his flagship with surgical precision, passing through the ship's shields like they were made of paper. But instead of destroying the vessel, the beam did something much more frightening. It turned off everything. Every weapon, every engine, every life support system, every computer, everything stopped working at once. The flagship went completely dead in space, floating helplessly with 20,000 Dominion sailors trapped inside. "What just happened?" Zephyros shouted. But his voice echoed in a ship with no power. More beams lanced out from the sun. Each one was perfectly aimed, striking Dominion ships with impossible accuracy. The plasma streams traveled across billions of kilometers of space, but they hit their targets like sniper shots. One by one, the most powerful fleet in galactic history was being systematically disabled, but not destroyed. Dr. Song Na-young had Spent months calculating exactly how much energy each beam needed to disable enemy ships without killing their crews. The solar flares were hot enough to overwhelm any known shield technology, but controlled enough to avoid causing hull breaches or life support failures. Fleet Master Vestan floated in the darkness of his disabled ship, trying to understand what was happening. "They turned the sun into a weapon," he whispered. "The humans turned their own star into a precision weapon." More ships fell silent as the controlled solar flares continued their work. Cruisers, destroyers, fighters, battle stations. Nothing could resist the precisely controlled power of a star. Within 2 hours, the entire Dominion fleet was floating helplessly in space. Elder Kethmaran watched the battle through his telescopes and felt a mixture of awe and terror. He had warned the galaxy about challenging humans, but even he had not imagined this. They had not just defeated the Dominion fleet. They had demonstrated a level of scientific achievement that surpassed anything in recorded galactic history. They turned a star into a scalpel, he said to himself. By all the ancient gods, they turned a star into a surgical instrument. War Prince Zephyros sat in the darkness of his dead ship, finally understanding what Elder Kethmaran had tried to tell them. The humans had not avoided fighting because they were weak. They had avoided it because they knew exactly how powerful they really were. Admiral Park Jisu's voice came across all radio frequencies, reaching every disabled ship in the Dominion fleet. "Attention, Stellar Dominion forces. Your ships have been disabled, but your crews are unharmed. Human rescue vessels are now approaching to provide life support assistance, food, and medical aid. Any ship that needs emergency help should activate distress beacons." In the silence of his powerless bridge, War Prince Zephyros began to laugh. But it was not the laughter of victory or joy. It was the hollow sound of someone who had just realized how badly he had miscalculated. The humans had not just defeated them. They had done it while ensuring no loss of life. They had demonstrated power beyond imagination, then immediately offered help to their enemies. Captain Ryu Taehyun guided his ship toward the nearest disabled Dominion vessel. His crew prepared medical supplies and emergency life support equipment. They were about to begin caring for the same beings who had come to destroy them. "This is madness," one of his officers said. "No," Captain Ryu Taehyun replied, watching. The sun returned to normal as Dr. Song Nayung shut down the quantum field manipulators. This is what mercy looks like when it has the power to choose. Across the galaxy, beings watched in stunned silence as news of the battle spread. The most powerful military force ever assembled had been completely defeated without a single shot being fired in return. The humans had used their own star as a weapon, then turned around and began rescuing their would-be conquerors. Elder Kethmaran closed his ancient eyes and felt the weight of 3,000 years of experience. In all his long life, he had never seen anything like this. The humans had not just won a battle. They had redefined what victory could mean. The stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter, as if approving of what they had witnessed. Lieutenant Jang Minho guided his boarding shuttle toward the massive Dominion flagship. Behind him, dozens of other human ships approached the disabled enemy fleet. Each shuttle carried medical supplies, food, water, and emergency life support equipment. "Remember," he told his team over the radio, "these beings came here to destroy us. They are probably scared and confused. Be careful, but treat them with respect." The lieutenant had volunteered for this mission. Most humans would have been happy to leave their enemies floating helplessly in space. But humanity had chosen a different path. His shuttle docked with the Dominion flagship. The airlocks connected with a soft hiss. Jang Minho opened the inner door and stepped into darkness. The ship's emergency lighting cast strange shadows on walls designed for aliens, much larger than humans. War Prince Zephyros waited in the main corridor. The proud leader who had threatened to destroy humanity now sat on the floor of his own ship, looking lost and defeated. His golden fur was dull in the emergency lights. His metals seemed heavy on his chest. "You," Zephyros said when he saw the human soldiers. "You have come to gloat over your victory." Lieutenant Jiang Minho stopped in front of the fallen war prince. He carried a large pack filled with supplies. "No, sir. We have come to make sure you and your crew do not die." The words seemed to confuse Zephyros. "What? Your life support systems were damaged by the solar flare. Our sensors show your air recycling will fail in 6 hours. We brought replacement parts and technicians to fix the problem." Behind the lieutenant, human engineers began setting up portable life support units. They worked quickly and efficiently, ignoring the alien crew members who watched them with confusion and fear. "I do not understand," Zephyros said. "We came here to kill you. All of you. Why are you helping us?" Lieutenant Jiang Minho knelt down so he could look the war prince in the eyes. "Because that is what humans do. We help people who need help, even if those people are our enemies." "But we would have shown you no mercy," Zephyros insisted. "We plan to destroy every human ship, every human colony, every human life. You know this." "Yes, we know," the lieutenant replied calmly. "That is why we had to stop you. But stopping, you did not require killing you, so we chose not to." Across the solar system, similar scenes played out on thousands of disabled ships. Human rescue teams worked around the clock to repair life support systems, provide medical care, and ensure that enemy crews had food and water. They treated injured aliens with the same care they would give their own people. Captain Lee Daeho arrived at the flagship several hours later. He had been appointed as the primary diplomatic contact with the defeated Dominion forces. When he entered the ship, he found War Prince Zephyros in the command center, staring at screens showing the rescue operations. "Captain Lee Daeho," Zephyros said without turning around. "I remember you from the council meeting. You were very quiet while I made my threats." "I was listening," Captain Lee Daeho replied. "Sometimes that is more important than talking." Zephyros finally turned to face the human diplomat. "Your people have made me look like a fool. 20,000 ships, the greatest fleet in galactic history, defeated by solar flares. My own admirals are laughing at me." "Your admirals should be grateful to be alive," Captain Lee Daeho said. "Do you know how difficult it was to disable your entire fleet without killing anyone?" Dr. Song Na-yung spent months calculating the exact energy levels needed for each ship class. One mistake and we could have accidentally destroyed hundreds of vessels. The war prince blinked in surprise. You planned to avoid killing us?" "Of course. What would be the point of unnecessary death?" "You threatened us because you believed we were weak. Killing you would not have proven us strong. It would have just made us killers." Zephyros was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, smaller. "How did you do it? How did you turn your star into a weapon?" Captain Lee Daeho sat down across from the defeated alien leader. "The same way we do everything else. We work together. Dr. Song Na-yung led a team of 12,000 scientists and engineers. They spent 2 years developing the quantum field manipulation technology. Every calculation had to be perfect. Every ship had to be in exactly the right position. One person making a mistake could have ruined everything." 12,000 people working on one project? Zephyros asked in amazement. "Working together," Captain Lee Daeho emphasized. "That is how humans solve big problems. We cooperate. We share knowledge. We trust each other to do their part." On another disabled ship, Dr. Song Na-yung was explaining the technical details to a group of Dominion scientists. They had requested a meeting to understand how humans had achieved the impossible. The key was realizing that stars are not just balls of gas, she explained. They are complex magnetic systems that can be influenced by quantum field manipulation. But the calculations required processing power from our entire computer network. A lizard-like alien scientist raised his hand. But how did you coordinate? So many variables across such vast distances, the timing would need to be perfect. Dr. Song Na-young smiled. We built a communication network that could send signals faster than light itself. Every ship in our fleet was connected in real time. When I pressed the activation button, all 300 quantum field manipulators fired at exactly the same moment. Impossible, another alien scientist said. No species has that kind of coordination ability. Humans do, Dr. Song Na-young replied simply. We have been practicing for 50,000 years. Every time we built a city, we had to coordinate. Thousands of people. Every time we went to war, we had to work together or die. Every time we faced a problem bigger than one person could solve, we learned to trust each other more. Back on the flagship, War Prince Zephyros was beginning to understand the magnitude of his mistake. You could have destroyed us easily. He said to Captain Lee Daeho, with that kind of power, you could have vaporized my entire fleet in seconds. Yes, the captain agreed. But then what? We would be the species that turned a star into a weapon of mass destruction. Other aliens would fear us, but they would also hate us. Eventually, someone would try to destroy us out of fear. The cycle of violence would continue. So instead, you chose mercy. We chose to demonstrate strength through restraint. Now the galaxy knows we have the power to defend ourselves, but also the wisdom not to abuse that power. That is a much better foundation for lasting peace. Fleetmaster Veldan approached them, looking embarrassed. Captain Lee Daeho, I must ask, what will happen to us now? Will we be imprisoned? Executed? Captain Lee Daeho looked surprised by the question. Nothing will happen to you. Once your ships are repaired, you are free to go home. Free to go? Zephyros could not believe what he was hearing. After what we tried to do? You made a mistake based on false information. You believed humans were weak and needed to be conquered. Now you know better. That knowledge is punishment enough. A human engineer approached their group. Sir, life. Support repairs are complete on this ship. Engines will take another 6 hours, but the crew is safe. Thank you, Engineer Park, Captain Lee Daeho said. Please make sure they have enough food and water for the journey home. Zephyros watched the human engineer walk away, then turned back to the captain. I do not understand your species. We came to destroy you, and you respond with kindness. Is this some kind of strategy? Captain Lee Daeho considered the question carefully. War Prince Zephyros, may I ask you something? In all your conquests, in all your victories, how many enemies became your friends? None, Zephyros admitted. Conquered species either serve us or rebel against us. There is no middle ground. That is the difference between conquest and cooperation. When you defeat someone through force, you create an enemy who waits for revenge. When you defeat someone through demonstration of superior capability, then show mercy, you create the possibility of friendship. Over the following days, human teams worked tirelessly to repair every disabled Dominion ship. They shared their technical knowledge freely, teaching alien engineers how to fix systems damaged by the solar flares. They provided food, medicine, and even entertainment to crews who had expected to be prisoners. Elder Keth Moran arrived in the solar system 3 days after the battle. His ancient ship approached Earth slowly, broadcasting peaceful intentions. He requested permission to speak with human leaders. Admiral Park Jasu met him in person at the space station orbiting Earth. The old alien looked even more ancient up close, but his eyes were sharp and intelligent. I came to see for myself, Elder Kethmaran said, to witness what has never happened before in my 3,000 years of life. And what is that? Admiral Park Jisu asked. A species that achieved ultimate power and chose to use it for creation instead of destruction. You have changed everything, Admiral. The galaxy will never be the same. The Admiral looked out at the space around Earth, where human and alien ships worked together to complete repairs. We hope it will be better. It will be, Elder Kethmaran said with certainty. because you have shown that true strength comes from lifting others up, not knocking them down. That is a lesson the galaxy has needed for a very long time. 6 months after the battle, Ambassador O Jinwoo stood before the Galactic Council in the same great hall where War Prince Zephyros had once threatened humanity. But everything was different now. The seats were filled with aliens who looked at humans with a mixture of respect and curiosity instead of contempt. Elder Kethmaran sat in the place of honor, his ancient form draped in robes that sparkled with symbols of wisdom. Former War Prince Zephyros sat nearby, but he no longer wore military armor. Instead, he dressed in simple clothes and listened carefully to every word spoken. Members of the Galactic Council, Ambassador O Jinwoo began, humanity comes before you today not as conquerors, but as partners. We propose the creation of something new, the Stellar Cooperation Initiative. Murmurs filled the hall, but they were sounds of interest rather than anger. The galaxy had spent 6 months watching humans repair the ships of their enemies, share their technology freely, and ask for nothing in return. This proposal was not entirely surprising. "What exactly are you offering?" asked a delegate from the Crystal Collective, her voice chiming like bells. Ambassador O Jinwoo activated a holographic display that showed star charts covering thousands of systems. "We are offering to share our stellar manipulation technology with any species willing to abandon warfare and join in peaceful cooperation. Together, we can rejuvenate dying stars, create new planets suitable for life, and build infrastructure on a scale never before imagined." The hall erupted in excited conversation. The technology that had defeated the Dominion fleet was being offered freely to anyone who chose peace over conflict. Zephyros stood up slowly. He had requested permission to speak, and Ambassador O Jinwoo nodded for him to continue. "6 months ago, I stood in this same place and called humans weak," the former War Prince said. His voice carried shame, but also determination. "I was wrong about everything. I thought strength meant having the biggest weapons. I thought power came from making others afraid. The humans taught me that real strength comes from building things together." He paused and looked around the hall at faces from dozens of different species. "The Stellar Dominion formally requests to be the first member of this cooperation initiative. We offer our entire fleet, our resources, and our people to help build this new galaxy. It is the least we can do to make up for our mistakes." The response was immediate applause. Species that had been enemies for thousands of years began talking about working together. The possibility of peace was spreading through the galaxy like wildfire. Dr. Song Nayung was busy in laboratories across human space, training alien scientists in stellar manipulation techniques. The work was complex and dangerous, requiring perfect cooperation between different species with different ways of thinking. "The quantum field generators must be calibrated exactly," she explained to a group of mixed alien and human engineers. "One mistake, and we could destabilize an entire star system. That is why we work in teams with multiple checks and balances." A squid-like alien raised one of its tentacles. "Dr. Song Na-young, why are you sharing this technology with us? Your people could use it to rule the galaxy." The human scientist smiled. "Because ruling the galaxy would be boring. Building it together is much more interesting." The first major project of the Cooperation Initiative was the restoration of the Kepler system. Its star was dying, and 3 inhabited worlds were slowly freezing to death. Before humanity's intervention, the planets would have been lifeless. Within a century, Captain Ryu Tae-hyun commanded the human contingent of the mission, but his crew included engineers from 12 different species. They had spent weeks learning to work together, overcoming language barriers and different approaches to problem-solving. "Beginning stellar rejuvenation sequence," he announced to the mixed fleet of ships positioned around the dying star. "All ships report ready status." One by one, representatives from different species confirmed they were prepared. The Velthari provided precise mathematical calculations. The Dominion forces offered their powerful generators. The Crystal Collective contributed their advanced sensor technology. Humans coordinated everything through their faster-than-light communication network, activating quantum field manipulators, Dr. Song Na-young announced from the lead science vessel. Stellar magnetic field responding, nuclear fusion rates increasing. The star is coming back to life. Over the course of 3 days, the dying star gradually brightened. Solar output increased to levels that would warm the frozen planets. Billions of beings who had been facing extinction now had hope for the future. Elder Keth Moran watched the project from his ship, marveling at what he saw. "In 3,000 years, I have never seen anything like this," he said to his aide. "Different species working together as if they were one people. The humans have not just changed the galaxy, they have shown us what we could become." Back on Earth, Admiral Park Ji-soo was overseeing the transformation of humanity's military. Ships that had been built for war were being converted into construction and rescue vessels. The fleet that had once prepared to defend Earth was now spread across the galaxy, helping with infrastructure projects and disaster relief. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Bae Suho reported, "The hospital ship Seoul's Hope has arrived at the Vegan colonies. They are providing medical aid to refugees from the plasma storms." "Good," Admiral Park Ji-soo replied. "What about the engineering corps?" "Currently helping build water purification systems on New Kepler. The locals say it will cut disease rates by 80%. The Admiral smiled as she looked at the reports flowing in from across known space. Humanity's ships were building schools, hospitals, power plants, and communication networks. Instead of spreading fear, they were spreading hope. General Kim Won-ho had retired from military service to become director of the Galactic Emergency Response Force. His new job was coordinating disaster relief efforts across dozens of star systems. "We have a volcanic eruption on Rigel 7, his assistant informed him. "Evacuation ships are 3 days away." "Dispatch the rescue squadron from the Centauri sector," General Kim Won-ho ordered, "and send engineering teams to help with temporary shelters." This was the kind of warfare he preferred, fighting against natural disasters and suffering instead of against other thinking beings. In the Galactic Council chambers, Ambassador Oh Jin-woo was presenting the latest cooperation initiative proposal. "We want to establish the Galactic University," he explained, "a place where beings from all species can learn together, share knowledge, and work on solving the biggest challenges facing our galaxy." The response was overwhelmingly positive. Species that had hoarded their knowledge for millennia were now eager to share and learn. The possibility of scientific advancement through cooperation was too exciting to resist. Former War Prince Zephyros had become one of the university's most enthusiastic supporters. He spent his days working with teams of mixed species on projects, ranging from faster-than-light communication to artificial gravity generation. "I wasted so many years fighting," he said to Dr. Kim So-min during one of their research sessions. "I could have been building instead of destroying. The humans showed us that there is always a choice." Dr. Kim So-min nodded as she adjusted their experimental equipment. "The important thing is that you made the right choice eventually. That is all any of us can do." A year after the battle, Elder Keth Moran requested a private meeting with the human leadership. He came to Earth personally, something he had never done for any other species in his long life. Admiral Park Ji-soo, Ambassador Oh Jin-woo, Dr. Song Na-young, and General Kim Won-ho met him in a garden overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The ancient alien seemed smaller somehow, as if sharing his knowledge with younger species had lifted a great burden from his shoulders. "I wanted to thank you," Elder Kethmaran said simply. "For 3,000 years, I watched the galaxy repeat the same patterns. The strong conquered the weak. Empires rose and fell. Species fought over resources instead of working together to create abundance. I began to think it would never change." "What changed your mind?" Dr. Song Na-young asked. The elder looked up at the sky, where human and alien ships could be seen working together on a new space station. You did. You achieved ultimate power and chose to use it for the benefit of all. You showed the galaxy that there is another way. Ambassador O Jinwoo leaned forward. What do you think will happen now? Elder Kethmaran was quiet for a long moment, considering the question with the wisdom of 3 millennia. I think you have started something that will outlast us all. The Cooperation Initiative is not just an alliance. It is a new way of thinking about what civilization can become. Other species will carry this idea to galaxies we have never seen. The change you started here will spread across the universe. As the sun set over Earth, painting the sky in brilliant colors, the group sat in comfortable silence. Across the galaxy, millions of beings from hundreds of species were working together on projects that would have been impossible alone. Dying stars were being restored to life. New worlds were being built from asteroid fields. Children from different species were learning together in schools that taught cooperation instead of competition. Admiral Park Jisoo broke the silence. Do you think this will last? Will the peace hold?